Hi, this is part 2 of our video. We're going to jump into the building database systems within the bare metal cloud and then comparing that with how it's done in the Oracle public cloud. This is the main screen for the bare metal cloud database creation, and we go back to that comment, that concept of components. So if you have a compartment and you define the networking, then you can go ahead and build a database system within that compartment. If we compare that with the Oracle public cloud and we go and look at how databases are created within the Oracle public cloud, it's quite different. Obviously, you go into the database cloud service and you're just essentially going to have the ability just to create that service. So one is a little bit more restrictive, but this is a virtualized environment, and this is typically going to be a bare metal database environment. We know that when we actually look at the shape, we can see it's a bare metal dense I/O shape as the database was built. So there are a couple different key things we need to understand when we're creating the databases. One is the region, right? Where are we creating this? What region are we going to actually build it within? And obviously, in the same way that we have regions, databases, we also have networking that needs to be defined in a region. So in this example, I'm new to the Ashburn region, which is the new data center. So I'm going to have to build out my networking first before I can actually build out my my databases. In the Phoenix data center region, I actually can go right in and actually create my database because I've already built out the kind of prerequisite networking. So when we go into launching a database system, pretty straightforward concept. The concept of availability domains is important. Typically what we've seen with Oracle is we've got 3 availability domains within one geolocation. So there's 3 within the Phoenix geolocation. We've noticed that depending on what availability domain you choose, you may have different choices. You can see this has the bare metal dense with rack. You may have different choices of your available kind of shapes and environments. We could obviously launch an Exadata quarter, half, or full rack, rack with local storage, or the dense I/O models. So you notice there's no virtualization when we're building out these databases. They're either bare metal or Exadata. Not too many people are going to want to virtualize their Oracle I/O. Standard software edition. This is very similar in the Oracle public cloud. They've got high performance and extreme. And I think Extreme has the in-memory database option. Core counts, basically based off of your standard configuration. Public keys on standard configuration, and then the most important thing here is the ability to have options. So disk redundancy. That's an important concept in terms of availability, costing more storage, and then the virtual cloud network. The networks we've defined, including the subnetworks, are a key component of this, right? So when we actually go about creating this environment, we're creating, host on a particular network node. Again, they give us 2 options down here, one for OLTP configurations and the other ones for decision support systems. Character set is obviously kind of a basic standard with database creations. The alternative is if we go look at the Oracle Database Cloud and we go look at some of those database environments, very similar configurations, not the same hardware, but pretty much straightforward. I think the key difference here is when we actually create the bare metal environment. Let's see, we go into LoadDB. All we have is kind of a template of a database running an environment. When you go back to the public cloud, you have the ability to launch Enterprise Manager, Application Express, and EM Console. The scaling up and scaling down works quite differently on the bare metal cloud. Scaling up does give you some outages when you're scaling up in the public environment. When you go to the bare metal, you don't have as many. It doesn't look like there's as much of an impact here, but the ability to scale up and scale down, we found to be much faster and more responsive. We've actually hit workloads against the database server while the activity is actually happening, and we've been able to see that we're actually able to connect to the host. And this is probably tied to the bare metal concept, where if we go back to the public, that's actually a virtualized image. So this is one of those key benefits of the bare metal concept especially within the database. In the same way with the public cloud, we can dive into the actual compute nodes that are actually a part of the database environment. We can do that here, and then we can also dive into the compute nodes here as well that are a part of the actual database environment. The other thing around the database environment we've actually begun to notice is the system details and the availability domain as a key component of that database environment. So in this case, we're now we're running 16 cores. We didn't have any significant outages, and that happened relatively quickly. Obviously, this is where automation comes into play, because if we start to scale up and scale down for workloads in an automated fashion, it creates a pretty compelling argument to why you want to begin to able to run workloads in the Oracle bare metal cloud environment. We talked a lot about networking. Networking is core to each compartment, and the virtual client network, the dynamic gateways, and the load balancers are actually incorporated all within networking components. The great example around the load balancer is that in the Oracle public cloud environment, that was an additional service that had to be configured. In this environment, you still do pay for it, but in fact, you can actually integrate it within your environment network components. We also get back to the point of understanding the key concept around groups, right? They're going to be groups of people that work on different aspects, and policies are then going to define who works on what. So that planning concept works really well, especially when you start looking at networking, because this is networking that's going to have to be managed by your network administrators. Storage is pretty straightforward. The one key difference we've seen with storage is when we go to the Oracle environment and we look at storage, there's an ability to create backups, snapshots of storage that are pretty straightforward. We'll go into this here. The storage console, we've got snapshots of backup snapshots of storage. On the bare metal cloud, you have that same concept. However, it's just called backups. Backups, again, are at the compartment level, right? There is no scheduling of backups in the bare metal cloud, and that once again points us to the use of automation. I think the bare metal cloud team wants you to use automation, and they haven't designed it into the UI, the ability to schedule backups like an OEM or one of those products. I think the most robust component that we've seen so far that's just not available in the public cloud is really the service level auditing. So this is pretty robust. Obviously the goal here is to mine this with an API type of tool because there's a lot of data. We'll get into a lot of this detail later in one of our lectures. But fundamentally, This is giving you a lot of data on exactly how stuff is happening, who's coming in, who's actually accessing the environment. This is not quite the same as a CASB, which is a cloud application security broker. That's another product that Oracle has. This is more of an auditing environment for who's doing what in your cloud environment. Before we jump off, I want to finish this off by going into the documentation. I think the documentation is pretty thorough and complete. If we think about the tendency of this team, this development team based out of Seattle, they are focused primarily on building the APIs first, and then after they build the APIs, they're probably building the UI. So the APIs are powerful, and in a lot of ways, they're the preferred reason, the preferred method that they want you to use to actually get to data within a particular environment. So a great example is if I look at the core APIs, I might look at something like creating an image. I can either use this manually with the UI, which becomes inconsistent and time consuming, or in the same light I can actually call the API reference, the REST API for this. So that's going to kind of round out our two-part look at the Oracle Bare Metal Cloud. In the upcoming lectures, we're going to dive into each component. We're going to walk through database creation step by step, hopefully to get you guys up to speed in the Oracle Bare Metal Cloud. It's an exciting new direction, and this will be the last time that we'll walk through the Oracle Public Cloud, because I think we're starting to move forward. So thank you very much.